Sorry about that. Didn't sync it up properly for once. I'm getting sloppy. Friends, sociopaths, sock puppets, welcome to another episode of Stream of Consciousness. I've got good news and bad news. The bad news is Brian won't be joining us tonight. The good news is that means a monologue from me. The bad news is I'm reasonably sober, which means it's probably not going to be as good. The good news is it's open mic night tonight. So if anyone wants to jump on, flick me a message, maybe alert me to it in the chat, just so I remember to check my DMs. Another reasonably big week in conservative and radical right politics in Australia. We are coming off the back of the Nepean district by-election in the once great state of Victoria, where One Nation performed, is what we're going to go with. Look, they didn't do too badly, really. I mean, I think, what we've been saying on the show since the Fon surge, sometime back in November, is that the big challenge for them is replicating the cut and thrust of the polls in the inevitable by-elections and in the state elections between now and 2028. Now, they did do that. I mean, a little bit less. They got 24.66% of the primary vote. But, right, it does reveal two significant problems for them going forward. There's a strategic problem and a tactical problem. Now, in politics, unlike, I guess, in army shit, strategic problems aren't as severe as tactical problems. You can overcome strategic idiocy with sound tactics, and so many campaigns have done it. I'd probably hazard a guess that every single Liberal Party campaign I ever worked on was, suffering from a deeply flawed strategy, which was overcome by good tacticians. Labor's much the same, right? In politics, the strategy is fixed by people who you can't pick and choose. The strategy is picked by, the people who sit in Parliament, the people who sit around a cabinet table, the people who rise through the ranks of individual political parties. So most political technology over the decades has kind of been adapted to this reality that political campaigns are a group of really smart people dragging a group of really dumb people by their toes to victory. And every single methodology, every single piece of technology, every single system that's in place in a political campaign is designed to do that. The problem in Australia is that we do have this central strategic concern that if you get wrong, it is going to fuck you. And this is what really fucked One Nation at a strategic level, was their unwillingness to not preference the Liberals. At a macro level, the One Nation at the tip of their spear have obviously decided that it is better to have Liberal MPs than not Liberal MPs. This is a grave strategic error, because One Nation haven't risen to, on average, around the country, 25 to 26% primary because of the failures of the Liberals. Sure, the Liberals have been comedically bad. The Liberals have become a satire of themselves. And that vacuum has allowed One Nation to enter the space. But none of this would have been a problem were it not for the Australian Labor Party and their allies in the leftist media and the leftist bureaucracy and the leftist academia and the entire, leftist superstructure of the Australian corporate life. None of this would have happened if those people weren't speed running our country into Project Zimbabwe. Now, if you want to win from 26%, if you want to keep growing, you need that to keep going, right? You don't want to arrest that. You want to accelerate it so that you can be the counterweight to it. And for some reason, One Nation do not whether it's for ideological reasons or interpersonal reasons. They don't want to do that. As a result, in Nepean, they have stumbled into a classic liberal trap of inking the preference deal, printing the how to votes, and then getting just absolutely flogged by negative liberal collateral. Now, they got 24.66%. That's good, but it could have been a lot better. And there's tactical reasons for that. They need to have a good hard look at their overarching strategy. They need to think really hard about whether or not they're really serious about this. And if they're not serious, get out of the way. Because, you know, we can't afford to lose in 2028. That's not an option. You know, we've got 2 more years and they need to get their shit together. And I hope Nepean, and to a lesser extent, the rumors of what's going on down in Farah are a significant wake-up call to them. The tactical issue that they're suffering from is that I just really don't think they know how to campaign in 2026, which suggests that they are not going to know how to campaign in 2027 and they won't know how to campaign in 2028. Now, to an extent, they can be forgiven for this because these guys have never campaigned, right? They have been present during election campaigns. They have, got a contact high from them, but none of them have ever run one in the modern era. And the best people One Nation have were either too young to be working at the tip of the spear of the last 2 or 3 campaigns where the methodology has been refined, or else they're so old, then when they did work in campaigns, the internet didn't exist. And, monitoring their communications, talking to people on the ground, analyzing it after it was done, that really shows. It really shows that they just had no concept of how a modern campaign is won and lost. I mean, they think that TikToks and Reels and clicking boost on a post are going to win you the campaign. I clicked boost on this post. It's got 6,000 views so far. It's not going to win me a fucking election campaign, right? Campaigns are about data. Campaigns are about maps. Campaigns are about intelligence. And it was very clear watching them from afar that these were very basic things that they didn't do and they weren't actually, probably didn't understand that they needed to do. I was watching Casey Briggs from ABC has over the last couple of days been running like booth by booth analyses. And I'd looked at them already. I'd seen what the booths were like last time, and we're now seeing what the booths are like this time. So I went away and I went onto Facebook because, look, I mean, it shouldn't come as any surprise. I kind of had infiltrated a lot of One Nation's group chats and comms over the last couple of weeks just to keep an eye on them. And so I was able to get a pretty good picture of how many volunteers they had and who their volunteers were and where they were going. So I cross-referenced them against their social media posts because, of course, they go on social media and they post where they are. And I cross-referenced them against the booths. And when you did that, what you saw was them campaigning like it was 1998 in a very basic way. There's something very fundamental about election campaigns changed in the last 20 years. And what changed was you used to kind of anchor your campaign against your strongest regions, right? And this is how Australians campaigned from Federation until about 1996, 1998, right? So you would look at the booths from the last election and you kind of start there and you work your way out. So you want to buttress your strongest areas. You want to sandbag them. And then you kind of leave everything else until last. That's all been upended now because we can get such good data out of, well, back then, I mean, they got data out of things like private information brokerages and things, and through direct mail and survey forms and polling. Now we get it raw out of social media AdWords and things like that. Nowadays, you start with the areas you're weakest in, and you go out there and you don't even start by going out in the orange t-shirts and telling everyone who you work for, right? You start by going out cold, and you start by doing third party. Wait, no, we're back. We are back. The Rothschilds did not get me. Yeah, no, we're definitely back. Yeah, I said all the messages just came flooding in then, and the last one I saw was Ashby's revenge. Yeah, he got me. But look, I lost my train of thought while I was trying to fix this fucking computer. But the long and short of it is, you know, look, I said it on Twitter the other day, right? They just need to go away. They need to hire someone. And this isn't a personal pitch, right? Because I actually don't think there is anyone in Australia right now who could give them the full service they need. They need to get on a plane, go to the US, go to Washington, D.C., call their friends in the GOP, line up a meeting with American-made media company, NPA Advisory is their big firm, and sit down, pay them the eye-wateringly high fee, and get a precis of what needs to be done, right? Full service. Do it now, because you won't be able to do it with them during the campaign. You'll get absolutely smashed if your advisory is from the US. But do it now and get an understanding of what a modern campaign actually looks like. Because if we keep going this way, I think they're going to lose. And, you know, that's the strategic side of it. There's the tactical side of it. There's a very practical side of it, which we're seeing come to light in Farah, which is their woeful candidate selection that needs to be fixed. All these things need to be fixed, and they need to be fixed in the next 12 months or 11 months before the Victorian general election, right? I think there's a real view inside One Nation that the state campaigns don't matter and that they can just use them as cash cows, and they don't really need to care about, you know, whether or not they win or lose. They just need to keep their heads above water and give their people something to do. That's wrong for multiple reasons. It's wrong from this strategic point of view that, you know, they are getting limited positive coverage from anywhere outside our circles, right? So anything they can do in these campaigns to try and articulate their message is going to be positive. The second point is they just need practice, right? These things are practice. You need Skull just pointed out it's May. What was I thinking of? 11 months is New South Wales. I was thinking of the New South Wales election because, of course, I always forget that Victoria exists. So, yeah, something needs to be done there. And look, I mean, I send out the same exhortation that I put on Twitter early in the week that if you do have any influence, if you do know anyone, I mean, this is just the message you got to keep pushing on them, right? Just get better. Country can't afford for you to not be good at this point, right? If they lose, if they lose badly in 2028, the next 3 years will be the culmination of Labor's plan to just really wrap the whole thing up, right? What people seem to forget is that, I mean, the left are broadly correct when they talk about the hyperbole around migration numbers, right? And a lot of people on our side are guilty of this, right? Like I saw yesterday, one of the slop accounts was cherry picking this February's ABS data and saying, 1.1 million people have arrived in the country, whatever, which is wrong. It wasn't that many. That's including like long-term resident returns, which we might get to later in the show because that's an interesting story in of itself. But I mean, the big moment, the huge moment was in the wake of COVID, right? And those people are now starting to apply for citizenships, right? So the window for us winning is closing. It's closing year on year. It's closing every year after the migration surge of 2020, 21, 22. Every year that it goes on and these applications are being approved, these people are coming online as voters. And Labor are making it abundantly clear, absolutely abundantly clear, that their strategy is those people. The old order of Australian politics is gone, right? We were seeing it in the lead up to the budget, right? They don't care about the middle class. They don't care about seniors. They care about Gen Z and new arrivals. Labor have calculated quite correctly. I mean, it's a correct calculus that's all they need. And this is the last hurrah for any attempt at, a policy for the future of Australia that is not based on turning our country and our economy and our culture into homogenized slag, unrecognizable from what it was in the decades prior. A country that has no vision of itself for the future beyond providing, cheap labor in a world where cheap labor will be increasingly undervalued. A country that produces nothing, a country that exports nothing, a country that achieves nothing beyond swimming and jogging fast. That's the future under the Australian Labor Party and their allies elsewhere. And the only chance to stop that is in 2028, because, this is the one thing these people are right about. The demographics are not on our side. The decisions that Scott Morrison and the Liberals made are coming home to roost, and they're coming home to roost in the worst possible way, in a way that I think is, for all our contempt of the Liberals, I don't think they imagined at the time, but it's how it is. And that's why we say TLD in the chat every show, because it's their fault. Never let them forget it. Of course, One Nation seem to have forgot it. They seem to have forgot it because they're going to give him number 2 on all their ballots. They don't deserve number 2. They deserve to be at the bottom, right? And the statement to the Australian people should be very simple. It's us or the end, right? There's no middle ground. There's no sclerotic Liberal Party clinging us on for another decade, right? It's either Project Zimbabwe now or something else. That's the future. Yeah. I'm going to go through the chat now, guys. I think that was a pretty weak monologue. Sorry I broke up in the middle of it. We got a big chat tonight. All the regulars are in. Bully Bullpit's mum has volunteered to cut my hair. He spelt mom. Bully Bullpit maybe accent doxing himself there. No, she can't cut my hair. It's part of my personal brand. Altan Industries says, are we asking too much too soon? I assume about One Nation. I mean, actually, no, dude, because One Nation have been in field since 1998. Right, that's when Pauline Hanson ran for the first time. That's when they shot onto the Australian political landscape. So, what's that, dude? 30 years? 30 years. So, no, I do not think that we are asking too much too soon. Surely they could have had their shit together before now. So Walmart Golem is in there with a sock scoop. One Nation are not contacting potential candidates in Victoria and don't even know when they're pre-selecting candidates. It's not even clear who the leader is in Victoria. My local footy club is more organised than One Nation. Dude, I don't think that's a scoop. I think all those things are true. And I think anyone adjacent to them in Victoria knows it. Look, I mean, maybe we're being unfair because maybe Victoria is an outlier. I mean, Victoria is the Portland, Seattle of Australian politics. I mean, if you had limited resources and limited time, Victoria is probably politically the state you would cut loose just because it's such a shit show. But, you still got to put in a good showing. So, yeah, I mean, look, that is a huge problem for them, but I'm not sure they're doing anything about it yet. the devil we want says, are we going to get reform, restore situation with One Nation in the future or some variation? Well, this is the risk, right? This is the exact risk, is that if One Nation continue down this path, and it's going to start in spaces like this one, right? You guys come in here every week, we tune in, we, take the piss out of them. But, I see all your posts on Twitter, like we're kind of the closest Australian right-wing politics has to like an intellectual deep web. And we've gone all in One Nation because there's nothing else going. But I mean, how much more failure can be abided before, there is this push for a split, which is effectively exactly what's happened with Reform and Restore. You have Reform, a fairly authentic populist movement anchored by populist principles and a lot of grievance with its members' former parties and all the water under the bridge through the UKIP days and Brexit, and etc. And then, in their kind of clumsy attempts to broaden their constituency by watering down their key message, you've seen the meteoric rise of Rupert Lowe and Reform, who, ape the kind of rhetoric that we have, like that kind of inflexible fuck you, it's our way or the highway. So I do think if things continue down this path, if One Nation don't achieve some kind of syncretism between those two impulses, and that is very much what they will end up with. And again, back to that point that One Nation don't really understand modern politics. I mean, I think they just kind of look at people like us like online freaks who aren't that relevant. They just think it's an echo chamber, but they certainly haven't been looking at what happened in the United States in the lead up to 2020 in 2016 and what's happened now in the UK, where, very niche online political spaces front load the political culture. It's downstream from us. I mean, how many times, and a lot of you I know who are adjacent or in politics tell me that, people organically repeat things like total liberal death back to them, like without even knowing where it comes from, right? And you see this throughout modern reactionary politics, right? There does generally tend to be these, kind of locuses that, where things originate from, and the political culture is downstream from it. So, yeah, they do have to recognize this. Otherwise, they're just going to get, continue to get in more and more trouble. Green Goblin says they could have got 30%, in my opinion. Hospital scare campaign got them good. Yeah, I mean, and that was a lot of the feedback that, was coming out of, their internal communications, was that a lot of their people were really spooked by that. Probably because they've come out of the liberal machines and thought, yeah, fuck, the Liberals are going to go to town on that. It's actually going to affect us. But the central campaign message from One Nation was this absolute horse shit about wanting to run a clean campaign and not wanting to go negative. I think I pointed out last week the absolute folly of that, The reason why you go negative early in campaigns is so you don't have to go apocalyptic at the end. If you have a steady, consistent, negative undercurrent running adjacent to your positive campaign, you run the two campaigns at the same time. You run both pieces of collateral. You brand them differently so people know the difference. The Liberals, both the Liberals and Labor Party are really good at that. If you look closely, there are visual cues, there are design principles informing their positive versus negative campaigns. So that if you weren't paying close attention as you were watching the 30-second spots on the news every night, you may be confused and think that they're not even from the same party, but they are, right? They do those things at the same time. The reason for that is because if you're fighting the negative campaign and you're fighting a positive campaign at the same time, and no one gets a tactical advantage over the other, you go into polling day effectively just fighting it on ground game, and may the best man / woman win. If you don't do that, then you end up panicking in the last 5 days. And instead of running the, easygoing negative piece saying, oh, well, they're going to, not build the hospital. That's the reason why they used to call me, to go after the wives and children. that's how you end up winning when it's serious. You dig the dirt, you go through their personal lives, you search through their bins, you find all their dirty secrets, and you publicize them, and you blow up their campaign in the last week. Now, that's fun for me. It's not fun for the country or the campaign proper, because the thing about the nuclear option is it's a long winter for everyone afterwards. And you don't want to have to do it. And how you avoid doing that is you keep the pressure on through the whole campaign. They failed to do that. And not only did they fail to do that, they were open about it. They were openly communicating it to their members that they had this, chaotic kind of clean campaign idea, which is just bullshit. And again, it just goes to show you that none of them have actually worked on a campaign, because anyone who's ever done it will tell you there's no such thing as a clean campaign. There's campaigns, and then there's failing campaigns that have no choice but to go dirty to save the furniture. Rowan says, One Nation won 3 booths in Nepean and tied with the Libs in another. I reckon you were very wrong about that campaign. Okay, well, that's what I was saying before I actually got cut off. Is, yeah, they did win 3 booths. And if you go online and you look at the candidate and you look at their volunteers on Facebook and you look at where those posts are tagged from, that's where those guys were standing for 4 weeks. And in fact, there's probably one more in there that was line ball. So there's probably 4 booths in the entire seat that they devoted every single spare minute of their attention to. Chances are, I think they were probably already going to win those booths. And the fact that the final result was 24.66, was 24%, which is more or less their average, and it's a Liberal seat, or was, with, apparently a nice guy, but a fairly weak member. They should have done way better, right? You don't spend campaigns sitting around your safest booths. You win campaigns by going into enemy territory. You win campaigns by isolating the places where there are potential swinging votes. Now, I bet not a single one of those votes was on the fence. And given that they've been running at 24% for so long, I think we can say that with some authority. Right? It's now moving beyond just, keeping the vibe together by holding on to the primary. They have to exceed it. They have to get better, and they have to push themselves to get better. Now, one thing One Nation are really good at is, kind of in a cargo cult way, emulating the dissembling narratives of the major parties. And that's what we've seen from them in the last few days. And I'm sure it's playing really well on their social media channels amongst midwits. But that's not going to win you a campaign. They have to be ruthlessly honest with themselves. I don't think there is going to be that level of ruthless honesty internally. So, my criticism, my pointed criticism, is really just in the vain hope that one of these guys watches it and goes, yeah, well, he probably has a point, right? I'm now up to the bit in the chat where I dropped out. Sorry about that. Everyone panicked. Yeah, Todd McGowan death. ASIO'd. The devil we want says, isn't Tassie internet meant to be good? No, dude. No, it is not good here. Taryn Angrove says Susan Lay has resorted to stealing copper from the NBN pit outside McGowan's house. Yes, true. The Redbridge Group sends their regards. Thank you, Aristocrat Decum. Yeah. So Walmart Golem says One Nation needs some rockets like Deeming. I mean, they nearly got her, right? I mean, after that fiasco with the dude who wrote the ringing endorsement of was he a child unpleasantness guy? Yeah, he was. Yeah. And as someone, so Walmart Golem again says, still no clear pre-selection process 6 months out. Yeah, exactly. Right. I mean, in a way, that's a good thing, right? I mean, the lack of a pre-selection process isn't a bad thing. I mean, the National Party in their golden age, or what counts for their golden age, 80s, 90s, very early 2000s, their pre-selections were decided by like a table of 6 guys. It was basically the same pre-selection process as One Nation have had this whole time. Worked really well for them. You know, it was only later and only state by state that the Nationals started drinking the democracy Kool-Aid and saying, oh, yeah, we've got to give the branch members a say. I mean, in New South Wales, you talk to their former state directors, it was an absolute nightmare. I mean, they'd pre-select these, they'd have really good candidates stand up, and then sometimes the branches would just pre-select a different one just to spite them. There was a great one in New South Wales, I think it was in the lead up to 2019, where they had quite a good candidate. I can't remember the guy's name. He eventually became an upper house member. And everyone said, oh, yeah, this is like the perfect guy. And then the branch just pre-selected a 21-year-old girl who I remember at one press conference, she ran away and climbed up a tree because she didn't want to talk to journalists. I had to get rid of her. But that kind of stuff started happening to them all the time. Buyback Capital is tapping Skull. He's saying, Skull, get up on the big screen, man. Yeah, I think I am going to need some help at some point. Bully Bullpit thinks I was mentioning Gout. I forgot he was a guy. But yeah, you know what I mean. This is what Australia will eventually just become a giant kind of sports betting country. Bits of that are okay. Scott Howard says, what's Latham going to do for the New South Wales state election? No one knows. I mean, Latham's fighting hard just to beat his ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous finding on that Alex Greenwich thing, which I encourage everyone to go on Latham's Twitter account and look at the actual details of that. See the kinds of people they put on the panel to find against him. Yeah. What else we got? Frank says One Nation are opposed to negative gearing and capital gains reform, siding with the wealthy. I mean, I don't know to the extent to that's them making a kind of actual ideological statement. What I see happening a lot with One Nation is they're just kind of like I mean, when you think the Liberal Party declined, I mean, if you're Peter Credlin on Sky News, the biggest One Nation apologist in the country, arguably, I mean, you would probably say that the decline in the Liberal Party began 2014, 2015 when they kicked Tony Abbott out. I think One Nation's position, like with it, because we know this 100% because they do not have any policy expertise at all. Like they're not sitting there producing any kind of policy vision for the country. So what they kind of have is like last known good settings. And in their mind, the last known good settings are 2014, 2015. So if it was a policy that Tony Abbott supported, chances are Pauline Hanson's going to support it too. I don't think they've thought too deeply about anything new or any broader ramification than that. You know, I mean, they're all in with, you know, the Gina Rineharts, et cetera, of the world and their various interests. But I mean, they don't have an energy policy. They don't have an export policy. They don't have a foreign affairs policy to speak of. Right? They have an immigration policy, which is lower. They support the Liberals on a bunch of things. Like I saw them the other day, they support the Royal Commission into child abuse in the Northern Territory. They support things like that, but they're not thinking anything new up at all. I mean, and sadly, they're not even stealing other ideas. I mean, the world has been riding a radical reactionary wave now for the better part of a decade. It's been a mixed bag. Particularly if you live in Iran. But broadly speaking, most of those movements have at least come up with one really good policy. One Nation haven't even stolen any of them. So I know that they're opposed to net gearing and capital gains changes, but I don't think that really means anything. I think what we have right now in One Nation is just a yawning policy vacuum where if you ask them, they just go and look at Tony Abbott and Joe Hockey's last budget, and if it's in there, they support it. If it's not in there, they don't support it. I think that's really what is going on. You guys are arguing about Rupert Lowe in there. Oh, look, I mean, I haven't really actually seen that much of him outside of Twitter. What I see on Twitter, I like. What else we got? Guys, if you put in links in the chat, I can't actually click on them. You gotta DM them to me or somehow communicate them to me. Enoch Bowden, who's in there. Thanks for coming on with you, Enoch. It comes down to the quality of the guys. Look, I mean, it doesn't, right? Like, I think we were all sitting there hoping that we would have just top quality dudes that would change the world. I mean, and it's just never going to happen, you know. I mean, like someone else in the chat said, you know, you get what you're given. So I would love for them to have some great Apollo to come and save us, but it's probably not going to happen. Yeah. Rara says Andrew Jennick should stand for a lower house seat in Brisbane. That's a great idea. I actually really like that kid because he's genuinely funny, I find, which like a lot of these guys aren't. Like I find I've watched some of the stuff that Clavicular guy does, and it's mostly just sad. Like he's just like a sad guy, you know, struggling with his life and struggling with obviously some profound neurotypical issues. Whereas Andrew Jennick's like, and he's like genuinely hilarious. I love the bit he always does with his wig. Maybe one day I'll like pull mine off and you'll find out it's a wig. That'll be really funny. What else we got? Skull says he's going to join at 9 p.m. for the Abbey hour. I don't know if I can get a whole hour out of Abbey. Yeah. Green Goblin says, John, realistically, will this shit budget shift votes? No, it won't. That's not what it's designed to do. What this budget is designed to do is give them a fighting fund for the 2028 election, right? So this is what basically every party who's gone through a financial crisis in some way, shape, or form has done. And what Tony Abbott attempted to do with disastrous results in his first budget is you just have like one bad year, and then you stack a bunch of cash so that you can splurge in the last year. Because, you know, and this goes to the point that we're going to get to on Tony Burke's kind of, you know, migration shilling roadshow, on the whole mood in the country, which is more about, you know, satisfying the whims of certain demographic cohorts than any kind of sane policies. Those guys' votes are up for sale, right? They're very easy to get. They know this. They absolutely know this. So that's what I think their plan is. I think it's just put the cash to one side, wait out another year, and then in the last budget, it's just, you know, they might restore some of the NDIS. They might introduce a new scam. I mean, it'll be something, right? Sorry, I've just got a cable that I'm adjusting. Yeah. So brace yourself for that, guys. Jack Lance is in the chat. He says, hypothetically, if Abbott returned to head One Nation, where do you think One Nation's primary vote gets to? I mean, something like that would just devastate the Libs, right? I mean, I still think, and I think that Nepean result is absolutely, makes it absolutely clear that there's still heaps of votes up for grabs in the Libs for One Nation, right? If that kind of, you know, milquetoast candidate with that with that party saddled with the worst, I think we can probably say comfortably the Victorian division's the worst Liberal Party in the country, and they're getting 38% in that region, there's votes up for grabs. They just had to figure out where they were and how to communicate with them. Zoom says, should Pauline run in the lower house? I mean, yeah, I absolutely think she should, but I'm not sure how legit it is, because I don't know if you guys actually watch the Peter Credlin show. Sadly, I do. She has James Ashby on, and he just kind of freeball, like, I don't know, like he just kind of, it's like freestyles it, you know. Sometimes he just throws things in. You're never quite entirely sure how legit they are, or if it's just him spitballing. So, yeah, I think she should, but whether or not she will, I do think Barnaby really does intend to go down to back to New England, and I think that'd be a fantastic idea. You know, the more of those guys in the lower house, the better. They're going to anchor the whole campaign. We got Bruce in the chat saying Pauline confirmed it today in Adelaide. Yeah, I didn't see that. Swamped Aussie says, hypothetically, John, how much should I tip on tab for Farah? I think I can get in trouble for telling people how much to tip. I think I read this in one of those like obscure gambling regulations. You can tell people who to bet for, but you can't recommend how much to bet or something. So yeah, you should bet whatever you can afford to lose. And like, guys, at this stage, it's a line ball. I mean, a week ago, even after his disastrous interview on about migration, I was still hearing good things out of there. Their UCOM's internals, which UCOM's are now. So it's actually kind of interesting story about what's going on inside One Nation. So they've hired UCOMs to do. I don't know if they did them in Nepean. I didn't see any polling out of Nepean, but they hired UCOMs to do their polling in Farah. They immediately leaked their poll to Channel 6 News, to Leo Puglisi, Australia's most tolerable journalist. He ran it because it was such an interesting poll. I mean, it had a 4 in front of it, I think. So I think it was like 40% primary. But then UCOMs have walked it back and said, oh, that's not our poll. It was really weird. But I've seen from the same person who dropped it, I've seen the screenshot. Like it's a real UCOMs poll. So look, I mean, they were saying a week ago, 2 weeks ago, how well they were doing. Now, could that have changed in the last 2 weeks? I think this story today about the kind of internal dramas with One Nation could be doing some damage. Not from the mainstream One Nation voter, but particularly amongst the cohort who fled the Liberals. I think they'd be real concerned that the party they abandoned the party they've gone to because their old one was just an ungovernable rabble, are now acting like an ungovernable rabble. So I think that could potentially shave a few percentage points off them if not managed. They just need that guy to come out and grovel, basically. He just needs to come out and say, kiss Pauline Hanson's feet in a sexually neutral way. Rowan just pointed out Heston Russell is running for One Nation in the LC in Victoria. Yeah, I mean, that's predictable. I'm sure he's a cool guy. His piece on the Too Fast, Too Furious podcast, Two Worlds Collide, that was really good. And that podcast's actually been doing great lately. It's now become one of the only ones I regularly listen to. Scott Howard said Abbott can't join One Nation. He put Hanson in jail. I mean, he didn't personally put Hanson in jail. And there's a lot of water under that bridge. I'm sure they'd let bygones be bygones if the potential to run the fucking country was up for grabs. Swamped Aussie says I have to respond to the GC. What do we got? Oh, I can't even. Okay, there's some debate going on in the Stream of Consciousness group chat about someone coming on, was what I took from that. And yes, we do now have a Stream of Consciousness group chat for the top Gs. I've seen all the other top streamers do this. They've got a super secret group chat just for the top guys. And we've done it too. So if you would like to be in the Stream of Consciousness group chat so you can shitpost with all the other top posters, let me know. And so, yeah, and I've just noticed Buyback Capital isn't in there. Look, I started on the weekend just on a whim while I was drinking at the pub, and I added 5 guys, and then I told the guys who were in there to add everyone else. So, and you OG members who are in there, you are admins. So if you see someone in the chat, add them on the podcast, add them on the GC, please. Ben's in the chat. He says he would like to subscribe to John Premium. Yeah, you mean stream of income. That's what we're launching next. Slop of Consciousness, stream of income. It's coming. It's going to be huge. That error I had on my computer before is actually because a cable is unplugged. And I just got to fix it. 1 second. Right. I think I fixed it more or less. Altan Industries says McGowan Gold. Yeah, we could call it that. Yeah. Oh, and one of you guys just reminded me I can share my screen now. So we might actually play some other content. Andrew of Thaler wants me to do my deep dive chat into Firmus. Oh, man, it's coming, dude. Don't worry, it's coming. Hey, speaking of Australian tech companies, did you guys see? You probably didn't because it was buried in the mentions. But I had a fascinating exchange today with the business development manager over at Cortical Labs. And some of you will know who Cortical Labs are. They're a really exciting Australian tech startup who kind of shot to notoriety a few months ago when they got Doom running on a cluster of brain cells. Did you see this? Anyway, Melbourne-based company, been around since 2019. They're just doing incredible work. They've recently got seed funding from InQtel, the venture capital arm of the Central Intelligence Agency. And I pointed out in a post recently that they're getting all these millions of dollars in funding from the US and in venture capital, but they've to date got just $800,000. Sorry, it was $845,000 out of the Australian government. This was a couple of days ago. I posted this. Anyway, their BDM actually tweeted at me and said, "Hey, where'd you get the $845,000 figure from?" And I told him it was through 2 grants. And he responded and he said, "Nah, like one of those grants was actually to Monash," and basically admitted that they've only got $245,000 out of the Australian government for arguably the most exciting technological innovation in the last, in decades in Australia, since maybe the cochlear implant. This is going to be huge. This is going to be absolutely huge for the country. To have that kind of sovereign capability, something that we can do that no one else can do. And we're selling it off piece by piece to investors because the Australian government isn't capitalizing on it. Just tragic. And, this is something I really want to talk to those guys from that new Build Australia thing, the Gearside guy. I really want to talk to them about, because they did all that great work on, when Bluey got sold and, we lost all that money. The Australian government lost all that money to the BBC. I mean, this is another obvious problem that, innovation in Australia is just not bankrolled. It's like another billion for the NDIS, and the guy who's literally figuring out how to turn human brain cells into room temperature, low energy computers that are going to revolutionize the world. They get nothing. They get $245,000. They get less than a senator gets for showing up. And they're building the future of technology for everyone. So, yeah, I thought it was really interesting. We had an interesting exchange, and I'm going to follow it up with him. He those would be fun guys to get on the stream, talk to some actual scientists for once. Look, the next thing we want to talk about today is Tony Burke. I mean, I've seen 2 of these videos this week. I'm going to pull one of them up, and we're going to throw it on the screen just so you guys can all see what I saw. Wait a second. So here we go. This is from old mate Rob. Rob Smith's been great at these. Rob Smith's one of my favorite. So hold up. There's a lot of slop I don't like, but Rob Smith's slop is some of my favorite slop. Share screen. It takes a second, I think. Oh, here it is. Add to stage. Here we go.
Naturalism can be, yes, of the fact that people can come from all around the world, very different views of a whole lot of international issues, and we get here and we just work together to build a really strong community.
And throughout your career, could you sort of tell me what's sort of like a turning point for yourself throughout your politics career?
Look, can I tell you one that even happened last week?
Yes, please. Yes.
So there's a show on the ABC.
Yes.
You can watch it on iView.
This
called
is
The
wild.
Piano.
Mm-hmm.
And my wife and I, we were watching it, and we got to episode 3,
Yes.
and it was a Palestinian family.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the husband, Baher, starts playing the piano, and he starts talking, and he mentions that they've only recently come from Gaza.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I thought, oh, hang on. And so I did some research. I called some people, and they were one of the families that I'd given a humanitarian visa for.
Wow.
And so last week,
Yeah.
I went down to Melbourne,
Mm-hmm.
and I went to their home. And Baher played the piano for me in his home, and I met his wife and his 3 beautiful daughters. And we signed the paperwork, and they're all about to become permanent residents.
Wow.
And to some people who, and I guess that's an example. I hadn't met him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, so that's the kind of stuff he's talking about when he thinks no one's looking. So that's from Oz Arab Media. But wait, there's more. I mean, the most notorious one, which I think I posted about earlier in the week, is this one. Hold on. You can see my shitty Tasmanian internet. Here we go.
Immigrants is actually part of the solution, not necessarily part of the problem.
This
I
goes for
just think
14
it was
minutes.
an
We're not going to
ugly
watch the whole
thing to
thing.
do. Your reference point has to be, how do we build the best community here? But also how important immigration is to the economy. And for me,
Are they ever happy with you?
that's probably part of the deal. That's true. Migration numbers are not only affected by visa holders, they're also affected by Australian citizens going back and forth. You are welcome here. You are at home. People from around the world arrive, often with one suitcase, but it's a suitcase full of dreams.
Hello, everyone.
A suitcase full of dreams and probably donations to the Australian Labor Party. That's wild, right? He's been doing this all week. I'm told there's a third one. I've been trying to track down the video. He's basically been like traveling around now for, I mean, I think those are about 7 days apart. Going on these dinky little podcasts that he thinks no one will see. You know, espousing the merits of Australians' migration program that his boss goes on TV and says isn't even that big anymore, right? It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Like, what is the policy? What is Australia's immigration policy right now? That's something that no one can answer. Australia's immigration policy right now is a shell game where they are trying to obfuscate how many people are coming into the country under which visa classes, moving them around month to month, you know, more student visas here, less student visas there, more permanent places. Meanwhile, Tony Burke is going out there to these multicultural media and shilling the merits of it. For what possible reason? I mean, these people are meant to, you know, already live here. So it's effectively an admission that this is the electoral priority of the cohort that Labor are trying to get their votes from. But their electoral priority is more of themselves. That's not a policy. That's a disaster of a policy. There's a guy on Twitter. Some of you probably follow him. I think his name's like Rob Daly or something, and he's got a lot of followers, and he posts like slop mostly. And the left, it's all tear it to pieces because it's always old and kind of alarmist misinformation. But he did post something really interesting that I had a look at yesterday. He basically posted that according to ABS data, 1.1 million new arrivals into Australia year to date, February 2026, since the last data was released. Now, that figure's wrong. That figure's not right. That figure is actually closer to 400,000, a bit less. There are less student visas that were approved up to February. A big part of the reason, of course, was that school hadn't started yet. So we'll see what that looks like by the middle of the year. And permanent arrivals were down. Family reunifications were up. But the figure was that 1.1 million figure includes long stay permanent arrivals. So these are people, many of them who already have permanent residencies, but who had left Australia for a long period of time, returning. These were returning Australians who are included in that figure. Now, comparing year on year, that figure was unusually high, which then begs the question, why was it unusually high? And there's a very obvious answer to that, which is if you think about what was going on in February, which was the preamble, not the what we've got now, but the preamble to Israel's land invasion of Lebanon. We have one of the largest Lebanese diasporas in the world here in Australia, and a significant, very significant cohort of them choose to spend much of their time back in Lebanon, and they travel, much like Greek migrants do, much like Italian migrants do, traveling to and from both countries. There are also very generous provisions on them accessing aged pensions and sharing the load of those aged pensions between the two countries. Now, that's the only real thing that changed in February. And like I said, that was before the land invasion began. So who knows what that figure is going to look like in July? How many people are coming back, and how many people has the Australian government accounted for coming back and wishing to resume their Australian welfare entitlements? And to what extent has the RBA modelled the impact of returning, particularly Lebanese, but also from elsewhere in the Middle East, returning long-term residents? What's their impact on the broader economy, on housing, on education? I mean, the kids need to go to school, all this shit, right? Has anyone thought of that? Is that going to be in the budget? Is Jim Chalmers going to calculate that? And I think the answer is probably no. So we'll see how things look by the end of the year. I think Alan Kohler's 50% chance of a October rate rise is just climbing by the minute. I think your chances of not getting one are insane. What else we got in the chat? Tommy says everyone on planet Earth is an undocumented Australian, apparently. Yeah. And probably great at playing piano as well. Yeah, RG says, pay no attention to that suitcase of cash. Look at the fella tickling the ivories. Look, I'm not saying the piano man paid a bunch of cash. I'm just saying that when Labor are thinking about their immigration policy, this is what they're ultimately thinking about. They're thinking about their donation base. They're thinking about their branch members who are filling the void that the union movement has left behind. And they're thinking about a demographic cohort who are going to owe them forever and who are going to guarantee electoral success into the future as the Liberals decline. Ben's saying I can't pronounce something still. What is it? Ironbark Alpha says jail war heroes import war criminals. Well, we're doing that. I mean, we got the ISIS brides, right? Green Goblin says John, Sydney Sweeney is in Australia again. What the hell is the film she's filming about a Japanese robot? Well, I'm glad you asked, Green Goblin, because I happen to know, and she is filming Netflix's Gundam adaptation. For those of you who don't know, Gundam is a classic Japanese anime that I think has been running for longer than I've been alive. I think it might actually have premiered maybe in the late 1970s, early 1980s. It's a searing critique on the nature of war and what it means to be human, featuring giant robots and buxom babes. Actually, some of it is set in Australia. Some of the really critical moments from the Gundam universe have actually happened here in Australia. I think the Project Hathaway movie that's coming out in Japanese cinemas in a couple of weeks is actually set in South Australia. Odd choice, but the Japanese can be forgiven. So yeah, that's what Sydney Sweeney's doing here. Rara says so many visa agents selling potions to get permanent residency when all you had to do was open the door for Tony Burke's wife. I like that we're just casually calling him Tony Burke now. That's good. Oh, Andrew Hennessy's in the chat. Welcome, Andrew. I was going to send you a message earlier to see if you want to come on the show because, as if you can't tell, I'm getting desperate without Brian. We've got Andrew says Australia is basically one election away from a permanent Labor government. Yeah, exactly. I mean, and this is exactly what happened to the United States, right? This was the fear driving the election of Donald Trump. Nobody's Ghost says ban the Burke. Tell you what, guys, seriously, everyone's got to be super careful because I like following the online reaction to Tony Burke's roadshow of shilling, the road shill. And the most common refrain in the comments from, our guys, that was a / by the way, not a salute of any type, is they're calling him a traitor. They're saying it's treason. And look, you might feel that way, but you got to be super conscious of the fact, man, they will lock you the fuck up for that nowadays, right? Used to be you could just have a little jape and call a politician a traitor. I used to do it all the time. I mean, particularly when I worked in New South Wales politics, where you just had so many guys who were like overtly compromised by the CCP and doing their bidding. And of course, many of them were revealed through various ICAC investigations, including at one point a Liberal Premier's boyfriend. But nowadays, that was 10 years ago. Nowadays, if you say a politician's a traitor, they'll put you in prison. So I recommend against it. Don't call them traitors. Think of another word for it. And much like Brian and I with our Star Wars people thing, I mean, the funnier and stupider, the better, right? When you're trying to think of things to call politicians, imagine being in the dock and what is the stupidest possible thing that a judge could have to repeat ad nauseum? What is the stupidest thing that the HR cat lady in a sheen pantsuit from the DPP could have to repeat over and over again? That's got to be the word you use, right? Yeah, I mean, it can just be the dumbest thing imaginable because that's all you can really get away with now, right? They're never going to prosecute us for calling them Star Wars people. This is not going to happen because they don't want to have to stand up in court and say that. Channel 7 aren't going to send you a journo down to harass you outside court for calling someone that. But yeah, try and think of the dumbest thing possible. See, now you're all calling more people traitors, right? I'm not coming to help you guys if you get busted. Right? In fact, you know who was calling Andrew Hastie a traitor just then was none other than Bruce Lehrman, a guy I've already had to walk into court with once. I'm not doing it again, man. You got one. If they arrest you for that, I'm not going with you. That would be enormously ironic if, after everything, what finally gets Bruce in prison is that he called Andrew Hastie a traitor on the street. Yeah. Wattle Crown says, did I pay attention to the anti-Semitism Royal Commission statements today? No, I did not. But I saw a precis of it on tonight's news, and by that I mean I got it from AI. Look, it's about what you'd expect. They are really pushing the line about like online hate speech really hard. That's their plan, right? They would never have consented to this whole thing if they weren't going to get something out of it. I mean, no one's going to stand up in that thing and say, hey, Australia's always had people of a fasci persuasion. Australia's always had National Socialist underground. But anti-Semitic rhetoric only seems to start increasing on a logarithmic scale after certain changes to Australia's migration regime. Don't you think that's weird? No one's saying it, right? I'm hearing Skull wants in. Skull, you have the link. I've already sent you the link, man. It's in your inbox. I'll resend it. There's only one link. We don't change it week to week. This thing's already set up, so I can just log in and press go. Yeah. He'll be in a second. Aristocrat Tacombe says Trump's goofy nicknames for people are a good template. Yeah. I mean, Tony Burke is a good one. I think Tony Burke flies. Green Goblin's asking for a sock exclusive news drop. Man, I don't have anything. I can't think of anything. Nothing I want to give away for free anyway. All right. Yeah, Bruce is just angling for another Channel 7 interview. where they. I think Channel 7 would interview you if you called Andrew Hastie a traitor. Abu Burke, that could work. Yeah. Tony Burke. Paul Sarr is also a good one. I'm a big fan of that one too. So all my columns talking about the NSN trial today. I watched that Jacob Hassan interview when he walked out of the courthouse. I mean, he was pretty good in that stand-up. I mean, way better than he is in his like little reels and stuff he does. Like I used to see him occasionally on Twitter. Like he always seemed like the least affable one of those guys. Like, you know, you could imagine having a beer with Joel and Thomas and like, yeah, they'd say some pretty eyebrow-raising things, but you know, whereas Jacob would just kind of like furrow his brow and like yell at the screen. It's just, to me, it just wasn't very compelling. I didn't come away from it thinking, oh, I'm gonna want to, you know, put on the uniform now. But today he was just so relaxed and fun. I got a kick out of it. Anyway, here's Skull. Welcome, Skull. Welcome to the show.
Hello, gentlemen. Hello, John. How are you?
I don't think there's any gentleman here. Actually, and also there is only gentlemen here. We haven't seen a single woman in the chat
No
tonight.
foids allowed.
It's a no foid zone. Yep. How are you going, man?
Yeah, good. I've just been on Daddy Skull duties, so forgive. I've come to bail you out, but I think I'm here to represent the real sock puppets, the real people behind the movement, and I say we want more Abby. So,
all right, well, let's get into it, guys. It's time. Just maybe you should be Context Capybara and share with the chat the latest Abby news.
I don't even know the Abby. You're the expert.
Oh, don't you? I thought you were following it. Okay, well, I'll be Context Capybara.
I follow the canons. That's about it.
So basically, this thing goes for 9 minutes, and I'm not going to play the whole thing. So basically, Abby did 2 weeks on Kiss FM. Actually, no, a week. I think she was only on for an actual week. She was being kind of mooted as a potential replacement for Jackie O on the Kyle and Jackie O show. So this was like her trial run just to see how good Abby is. Now I tuned in, like I wanted to hear it. She was good. I mean, actually, like, wasn't any weird lefty shit. Like, I mean, as far as morning radio goes, I thought she was a lot of fun. Anyway, the News Corporation, the Murdoch press, do not like Abby. They don't like her at all. And so they've been kind of bullying her online. Anyway, poor Abby has had enough. And so she's been told. So they ran a story, I think it was yesterday, News Corp ran a story basically saying ARN, the embattled company currently in a legal dispute with Kyle and Jackie O, have given her the flick and she won't be coming back and she's no longer in the running, which then led to this very sad thing from Abby, which I'm going to play now. Here she is.
Have one. So you can stop now.
I got to get to the beginning. I don't know if you guys heard it, but it's good.
I am completely broken, and I just want to tell the media that you have won. So you can stop now. You've won. Are you happy? I don't know how much one person is supposed to take of this, but in the past year,
John's in heaven.
Media have gotten particularly vicious.
No, I'm not, because she's in pain. She's in pain. I don't like seeing it.
Always been
You love it.
particularly trash news outlets. But it's becoming increasingly clear that even previously reputable sources beginning to attempt to profit off the cash cow that the trash media outlets have created, that is Abby Chatfield. And what I mean by that is that continuous, what I would call, in my opinion, unfair reporting and twisting of facts.
Anyway,
and
I'm going to shut it down because
facts
this actually just
and
goes for
use
like
of photos of me.
This goes for like 9 minutes. It's like to Abby's immense credit, I think she's a really great kind of content creator, and she gets all the important salient points out in the beginning in a very quick clip. Look, basically the central thrust of that is Abby kind of turns on the mainstream media in a really profound way, and what she means when she says like previously reputable news sources, of course she's talking about Fairfax Press, she's talking about the AFR, and she's talking about The Age, who kind of equally piled onto her this week. But she also makes this really interesting point, which I think is one of the most crucial and tragic points about Abby Chatfield, is that, and be honest with yourselves, did any of you know who the fuck she was 18 months ago? Right? No, I mean, in fact, most of you probably didn't even know who she was until I started simping for her online, but no one engaged in politics really knew who she was. She became this political commodity because of Anthony Albanese, right? Albo went on her podcast. Now, her podcast actually did really good numbers, and I went back and checked this because I'm writing about it at the moment for, as Ben will point out, my Substack. And for those of you who actually subscribe to it, who probably noticed I haven't published much lately, it's because I keep starting and not finishing things. But I went back and checked, and if you actually look at her content prior to the last federal election, like, yes, she was political, but in that kind of benign way that, you know, girls who post about makeup are political. Like, she wasn't like visceral about it. She wasn't like that agitated. She'd get upset about like the manosphere and fucking, just general kind of Freud issues. But it was that campaign that really shot her to notoriety. And I just think she has got profound buyer's remorse now. And I feel really bad for her. What do you think, dude? Where are you at on this?
I think you can save her, John. That's what everyone believes. So I think what's his name from Peking Cuck? Where's he? Like, he should be supporting her.
Yeah, why isn't he in that video supporting her? And also, she does allude in it to how like her mental health hasn't been bad, and she hasn't been getting a lot of support, which makes me think he might not be a very good boyfriend, and he's too busy flying around singing. I don't even know what kind of music he sings. I don't think I've ever listened to a Peking
2010s kind of, I don't know, fake techno.
Yeah. But look, my central thrust is, and without, with no double entendres from the chat, please. Now that Abby's taken the first step towards enlightenment, she's now realized that the media are not your friends, that they're not going to help her. And I think it's only a matter of time before she starts drawing a direct link between her kind of paid adoption of the politics of Anthony Albanese and, the managerial democracy project and her own woes. And from there, I think she will, she's going to come around to our way of thinking. Abby Chatfield could be our Dasher, right?
Yeah.
This is exactly
what we were thinking.
This is when we've been saying this for ages. I've been saying this for ages that Australia needs this, right? Think about the kind of, the superstructure of Red Scare and how they kind of went from this, dirtbag left through to reactionary pipeline. It wasn't because the girls just woke up one day and started reading the literature. It's because of the mainstream media and political figures attacking them because they didn't toe the exact line. Now, I actually think, having listened to probably a couple of hours now of Abby on the radio, I reckon if she had gotten on air and she just had started like screeching and yelling about Pauline Hanson, that this wouldn't have happened. I think a lot of the vitriol she's wearing from the rest of the Freud sphere is because, and she says it in the full 9 minutes, if you care to watch it. She said, like, I just wanted a new job. I just thought it'd be a fun, easy job, right? She wasn't going into it to be like a kind of, political paragon. She was going into it to make a paycheck and to have fun on breakfast radio.
Yeah,
And now she's found out you're not allowed to do that.
Once you get in, there's no getting back out. So I suppose I actually I was red pilled on Red Scare maybe 6 or 9 months ago, and I've like listened to it since. So I'm somewhat of an expert subject matter. I don't know if we need an Anna though, surely, because I don't know if Abby's that intellectual to kind
Neither
of
is
make
Dasher
these
really. I mean, but
But
also,
exactly.
I mean, there's an argument there that Australia's population is so small, we could condense it into one show. So instead of having Red Scare with 2 girls and then a Joe Rogan and then a Nick Fuentes, I'm proposing that we put
Abby and
everyone
John.
on one show. Well, Abby, John, and Carl Stefanovic on one show every week for 45 minutes. And it's just the 3 of us. Let's get it all out of the way at once for an audience with only 26 million people in the country and counting. Like, that's how we might have to do it. You can't have discrete channels for everyone. It's just got to be like everyone's on the one show. So that's what I'm proposing. Abby, come on Stream of Consciousness, right? And we'll talk about, I don't know, like anything. Like, I mean, the first thing I want to talk to Abby about is how she needs some of my hair product, because I don't know if you noticed, but her hair looks just terrible in that clip. I mean, this looks so dry and lifeless. Like, well, she's just been sad and she's not been taking care of herself, which breaks my fucking heart, So
sad. I think to win her over, you need to go with the eyeliner and leather pants kit.
Yeah, bring that back. You think? Like,
yeah, try and outcompete with her boyfriend. You've seen those Shooter Williamson clips.
Yeah.
Somehow that guy's made a comeback like a decade later. Then I don't know where that came from, but they were fucking funny.
But yeah, I mean, Abby as Dasher, I think could really work. I mean, I don't know if she can act though, because that's the interesting thing about Dasher is she can actually act. I don't know if you've seen her and stuff. My favorite Dasher performance is now the hardest one to get. Do you know? Have you ever played the video game Disco Elysium? You ever heard of this?
I've heard of it. I'm a Mac game guy. Come on, like the tism's too strong in this one.
It was a big game when it came out. It was designed by a bunch of, I think they might have been Polish or Slovenian or something socialists. But it's a really cool and politically interesting video game. And originally, Dasher was actually the voice of one of the characters, and she did a really good job with it. But then, because of her politics, when they released the director's cut of the game, they actually pulled all her voice lines out and replaced her. So, maybe we could get Abby Chatfield in a video game. Like, it's a pity Electronic Arts aren't still churning out those classic, like, AFL 20X games.
EA Sports.
EA Sports, yeah. It's in the game.
NFL, she can just be an AFL cheerleader or something. Get her a gig. She's looking for a job.
Get her commentating. So. Like, she's looking for a job. Yeah, they took her job away from her. Like, she did 2 weeks trial. And, I wonder if they even paid her. ARN are notoriously cheap. I mean, now they're trying to get out of their deal with... Yeah, they're running out of money. Kyle's probably going to buy them. Like, yeah, we've got to find a job for Abby. I feel really bad for her.
You say, yeah, I think everyone's surprised that you actually do have a heart, but just specifically for Abby Chatfield.
I don't know. You ever read much? You read much about like Alistair Crowley? How Crowley spent the later part of his life determined to find the Scarlet Woman who would like embody the feminine side of his magical practices. It's basically what Abby is for me. Like, I'm convinced that she's the secret to unlocking a reactionary revolution in Australia. I just need to incept the idea into her somehow. I don't know how we do that. Yeah.
Maybe the chat has ideas. I know you pulled off the wallet stunt, and we've got Australia's most influential poster on board. So
yeah, I know, right? That was just part one of my plan for global domination. Was just stealing one wallet. Like, it's often the way things go in politics.
But I think it is. I think it is a personal thing from you. I think it really is up to you to seduce and, recruit.
I don't want to seduce her. It's not a sex thing. Like, I mean, this is the problem with our movement, right? Is because guys they either have like one wife or 0% pussy at all. And so because there's no one in the middle in right-wing politics. Those are the two extremes, and they're not conducive to leading a healthy life. And like a lot of you guys, you get married young, or you just never talk to a girl, and so that's the only thing you think about, you know. Whereas in real life, like, women are more interesting than that. You can have other kind of, you know, interests in them. Like I'd like to read a book by Abby Chatfield. I think it'd be fascinating. I think she's one of the most fascinating figures in Australian media, but you know, I'm probably just on the margins of that.
Just to clarify, I married my high school sweetheart and I didn't have sex until marriage, and I'm a good Christian man.
It's another one, yep. We'll get you on the show with Nathan Porter. You guys, one of those. The Pastor Skull Hour, like Timu Purple Pingers and Pastor Skull are going to talk to you about saving yourself for Jesus. Yeah. Anyway.
What I actually wanted to say after you mentioned androgenic, and I agree. He's a pretty funny guy, and he's actually pretty smart.
Yeah.
Andro.
Yeah. I got Anthro or Andro.
Andro, like androgyny is the male hormone.
Oh,
yeah. Anthro would be human or whatever.
Yeah. Well, you guys see he's a human, right? Yeah.
But if I recommend listening to his interview with Sam Hyde, it was like he doesn't take it too seriously.
To that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, listen to the free half, but he pretty much just says, like, I don't know, he's self-aware about it. He's like, yeah, like, I know I'm look a bit stupid and like it's all a bit weird, but he gets personal satisfaction out of it. It's about, you know, self-improvement at its core. And
yeah, exactly. And that's what it was for a lot of guys at its core. And that's why, like, you know, if you go back to when I was a kid, like when Ziz was making videos, right? Like there was a certain joie de vivre to it, you know, like he preached a message of peace and love amongst men. He wasn't there like talking about his nootropic stack and having dysfunctional relationships with women. That's what we need. That's Hyper Australia, right? We need Matt Canavan to visit Ziz's grave. I think that should be like that should be something Matt Canavan should have on his agenda for the election. Like, it just becomes a tradition for right-wing politicians. You just have to visit Ziz's grave.
I mean, the amount of 30 to 40-year-old men you'd lock up straight away.
Oh yeah. If you just like got a can of White Monster and some Jack 3D, and you took it to Ziz's grave, and I reckon, and then you just like stood back like Putin, like at the war memorial with your hand over your heart, I reckon the country would love you. Well, as someone pointed out in the chat, while Avicii's Levels plays, like that's instant victory. Like
doing some Melbourne Wog Shuffle.
Yeah.
I can Wog Shuffle if anyone ever is blessed with meeting me. I can show you my Wog Shuffle.
I can't do it. Yeah, I was more like a lie down next to the speaker at raves guy, less really energetic dancing guy. But that was just me. Yeah,
not that I'm really old enough for raves. I just learned it from kids at school.
Yeah, well, probably. I'm surprised there isn't like a Ziz Fortnite dance you can buy. Like, someone should do that. Yeah. Green Goblin says, I'm genuinely surprised no politician has played Levels in their ads yet. Avicii's kind of a big deal, though. I think he'd sue the shit out of you if you tried that. Yeah, I see we've got some Jack. I think it's actually pronounced Jacked, the Jack 3D stuff. I should actually clarify. I've never set foot in a gym in my entire life. I only know about this stuff because one of my best friends was really into it. And when he was, this is like back when Ziz was still alive, and he was like buying, you know, filling up a cupboard in our share house with Jacked. And I was just filling water bottles with it just because it was good. Like, I actually did lose a lot of weight from it just because you're basically on meth. walking around before White Monster came out. Yeah. Wait, Avicii is dead? What? I had no idea about this. What the fuck? When did he die?
Oh, I didn't know.
Wait, he died in 2018? How did he die? Oh, the Amani royal family, and you're telling me it wasn't suspicious? What? What the fuck? He died? I mean, to be fair, like, I only know that one song of his, but still. Yeah, wow. That's terrifying. Huh. Well, as our friend Mal says, he did lead an amazing life. Yep, RIP's in the chat for Avicii. Total Avicii death. Yeah, that's not the first one to think of that. That's crazy. I wonder what he overdosed on. Could have just been pingers. Like,
how do you overdose in Amman?
Just, I mean, ask any Australian prostitute. I guess probably they all go over there and don't come back. It's really sad. I'm sad about that. I had some good times to that song. Yeah, soundtrack to the early 2000s. Tragic. Well, at least we know the vaccine didn't get him.
Rip Warnie.
Yeah, RIP Warnie. No, you know what got Warnie was the Cremagra, the knockoff Asian dick juice. Do you know this stuff? You probably don't because you.
Why would I know?
Yeah, you don't know this because you're married to your high school sweetheart. But there's this stuff, and it's only sold in, like, illegally in Australia or in Thailand and Vietnam and the various countries belonging to the diving races. And it's called Cremagra. It's like a gel, like a jelly pack, and it's Viagra basically. Like, but it's a different formulation to get around all the various copyrights and things. And Warnie's room, like, he had like a 750 ml bottle of it. Like, you're meant to do like a teaspoon of the stuff at a time, and he'd clearly just been chugging on this stuff. And yeah, that will absolutely kill you. So there's a lesson there. That's one of the most important, like, for me as something of a rogue myself. Top 2 celebrity deaths that made me really go, oh shit, I gotta clean my life up is Warnie with the Cremagra and Heath Ledger with the don't mix fucking Valium and alcohol. Like, these are the things they should teach you in high school. I don't know why we're not teaching kids this.
How to mix drugs.
I just have I said the same thing with the androgenic and clavicular stream where clavicular OD'd, and it was like really obvious what he OD'd on because he was doing what's it called, methylene blue, which is something like some of these gym guys take, which is very similar to GHB. And then, like, on top of that, he was taking all these MOAIs, and like that's the thing. Like, when you Google it, it literally says, "Don't take those together. You will get serotonin syndrome and be fucked up." Yeah. So that's. But why aren't kids being taught that in school? That's what I want to know. When I'm Prime Minister, when Abby Chatfield and I are leading the country. This is kind of thing you're going to learn
as king and queen.
Yeah, as king and queen. We're going to insist on this stuff. Like, there's going to be a whole unit in Australian social studies devoted just Ziz studies. Like, it's going to be it's going to. It's going to be a national holiday. Like, actually, not his death. I think that would be grim. We might have to do like an annual, like, big day out, like national public holiday. We're going to bring that back. We're bringing big day out and Soundwave. They're both coming back as part of Hyper Australia.
Big day out nationalism.
Big day out nationalism. That's good, actually. Yeah. Someone should do an edit.
Before, so.
Yeah, someone should do an edit of just like classic, like Australian big day out crowd shots, because there's been some great ones.
I think under that post, I think I just stick to the all natural plants and pingers.
Yeah, you can't really go wrong with those. Although, so Ben in the chat, he's the same age as me, and him and I actually went to school together. And as he pointed out, we literally had Anna Woods' parents come to our school and lecture us about drugs. For those of you who are too young to remember, Anna Woods was a Sydney schoolgirl who tragically died from a very much an outlier.
That's the word. That's the word.
Yeah,
that you can't pronounce.
It's something that is it. Yeah, it's something that's not meant to happen. Basically, like, because all the drug education, all the harm minimization back then was like, oh, if you do end up taking MDMA, make sure you drink heaps of water because it dehydrates you. And Anna Woods drank too much water and she drowned. It turns out, drinking too much water. Really sad. Like, they really needed to caveat that and say, well, there's actually sometimes you can have too much water. So we got that in school. So, which sucked because like half the drug education would tell you, oh, make sure you drink water if you take MDMA, and then the other half of the drug education was, except for that one time. So like a whole generation of young people started taking MDMA, just crippled with anxiety about what is the right amount of water to drink while you're on it.
Was it last summer when all those ODs were happening, or?
Yeah. But a lot of those because of fentanyl in cocaine.
Fentanyl lace.
Yeah,
they brought those
everywhere last summer.
Yeah, they brought out those new laws in Victoria. That was kind of a thing, but haven't heard of it since. So obviously cleaned up.
And it was, and it happened all over the world. It wasn't just here, and it looked like it was one processing facility, most likely in Pakistan, where they were like bulk processing imported cocaine and fentanyl, and there was cross contamination.
So it's actually like this facility processed peanuts for drugs.
Basically that's most likely way that it would have happened, because it takes very, very little fentanyl to kill you. A tiny amount, like in its purest form. So it would have taken like the powder, like the size of like a grain of rice, could have got into a kilogram, and that could have killed everyone. Yeah, it was just tragic. Happened. It was one of the worst cases that happened in Sydney. This is maybe back in 2007, and actually earlier. It was before the creation of the National Crime Authority. There was a shocking case where a brick of desomorphine had been imported into Sydney. Desomorphine is the precursor to heroin. So when you're producing like heroin, like in Mexico, like the brown sugar shit, the precursor is a product called desomorphine, which is pulled out of refined poppies. The desomorphine is shipped around the world, where it's like cut regionally, because it's easier and cheaper to send a kilo of desomorphine and turn it into like 5 kilos of heroin in a secondary site than it is to process it in Mexico and send it around the world. A brick of this stuff ends up in Sydney, and it was actually part of a controlled police operation. They were trying to catch a corrupt cop who was helping to import heroin. And the heroin arrived and the guy handed it off. And the plan was they were just going to watch him to see who bought it and see who it was sold to. And then within like hours, junkies start turning up dead. Because, I mean, this cop hadn't checked it. He didn't do a shot of it himself. He just started selling it. And yeah, there were like, I think from memory, it was like a dozen of those. And it became a really interesting political flashpoint in New South Wales, because the officer in charge of that, or I think it was alleged to be in charge of it, I don't think they ever got to the bottom of it all, was later Deputy Commissioner Catherine Burns, who was in this long-running feud with other cops around phone taps and all this unpleasantness that went on as part of investigations into police corruption. And the story emerged that she authorised the operation even after knowing that it was desomorphine. or allegedly. I don't know the extent to which that was true. But yeah, so it ended up becoming a political issue in New South Wales. So these things happen quite a bit. Not to give the kids in the chat any more anxiety about doing drugs. You can buy drug testing kits from an off your tree. You know those like head shops, the places you buy bongs in every capital city. Off your tree sells them. So you can just buy the little testing kit and make sure it's pure before you do it.
Get with your friends, buy in bulk, and test it together. That's it. Well, they do it at festivals now, so.
But not everywhere. Some places are really reticent to do it. And honest to God, man, I'm reticent about it too. I don't think it's the job of the government to test your pills, not when you can just do it yourself. We should just legalize the testing kits, sell them wherever idiotic products are sold, and say to young people, hey, are you going out this weekend to get off your chops? Well, go and buy the fucking testing kit, you moron, and test it yourself. Because what happens, I mean, there's a margin of error on these things, right? So what happens if the kid goes to the government-sanctioned testing tent, gets their gear tested, and it turns out to be hot, and then they die? I mean, is the government on the hook for it? Are you going to have sad parents campaigning? Like, what are the consequences of that? It's the government's problem. When it shouldn't be the government's problem, it's your problem. Not yours specifically. I don't imagine you're going out on the weekend, gobbling fucking pingers like trail mix. But
I wish.
It's when you can't make it on the stream earlier than 9 o'clock because you got to put the kid to bed. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of my whole view on drugs. That's why I've never kind of like got along with the libertarian perspective or the legalized cannabis guys. Like, I think it's your responsibility. It's your responsibility to not get arrested. It's your responsibility to make sure the drugs are safe. It's your responsibility to read on them and make sure you take them in an appropriate way. If you fail to do all those things and something bad happens to you, well, that's on you, right? You can't say in the modern era where every single piece of data compiled by mankind is on a little brick of lithium and aluminium in your pocket. You can't argue that you didn't know. Unless you have a sub 85 IQ, in which case, I hate to say it, but you're probably no great loss to humanity at that point. So do the research. Yeah.
Yeah, Matt did talk. Did you see the Shoebridge video?
What a moron.
Telling a cop I'm a senator is like...
Oh, I know. That's not a flex, man. That is not a flex. They do not care. The cops do not give a fuck, right? In fact, they're trained to not give a fuck. Like, imagine if you could just get out of a roadside drug test by saying you're a senator. I mean, half of the guys studying international relations at ANU look like David Shoebridge. Like, there's 300 guys who could just say, hey, I'm Senator David Shoebridge and not get arrested. Yeah. I think that, what a moron. Like, don't you want the roads to be safe? Like, I mean, I don't smoke weed. It's like actually one of the only drugs that I just really don't have a lot of time for or regard for. I don't enjoy it, and I don't enjoy the kinds of people who smoke a lot of it. But I just hate to think of what someone on that stuff will be like on the road, right?
Yeah, it's not that hard.
I can barely walk from my couch to the fridge if I have like one puff of a joint. Like, I can't imagine like operating heavy machinery on it.
I think it affects people differently. Am I able to share screen?
Can you see a tab down the bottom that says present or invite? So just click present or invite and then just go share screen.
But
Ironbark Alpha just said, I'm Tiger Woods didn't work.
It's backstage or something.
Okay, so then you click in the middle where it says put on stage. Oh, there you go.
There you go. Here we go.
Here it is. Here's the video.
I was just pulled over by police on my way into Mardi Gras at Nimbin. Have a look at this footage.
So testing. Yeah, you do. So we are also recording audio and video.
Is that cop wearing a bucket hat?
Yeah, Senator David Shoebridge is my name.
Oh, okay.
How many cops?
Oh, yeah.
This particular stop?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
And how many stops are there around Nimbin?
I'm not quite sure. There's people from out of town. The alcohol test. All you need to do is just count 1 to 10 towards that device.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,
You can
8, 9,
you can
10.
see he's shaking.
The other test we're doing today is roadside drug testing. You have one of these before?
Yeah, every time I come
Okay.
to Nimbin. See all the waste of public resources and waste of your time.
It's not a waste of public
money
resources.
It's probably the most effective way to stop stone driving.
No.
So,
To be quite frank, if I had, I wouldn't tell you, but I haven't.
Whoa, rebel.
Oh, yeah, big dog. The big dogs are back in town now.
towards the back, press down, drag it to the front, and hand it back to me. I'll come back and check
The
you
last
shortly.
clone, did you say?
Yeah, just that last one there.
Yeah.
That way, if we do stop anyone else.
No sense of irony there?
And he's such a relaxed cop
Those
as
times.
well.
Okay, cool.
Like, what a top cop. And also, can we just reflect on a time in Australia where all cops look like that, and they didn't look like they're about to jump out the back of the C-130 in Call of Duty Warzone? Like, how much nicer and relaxed our society would be if cops just wore bucket hats and a high-vis vest and had a fucking 38 6-shooter on their hip instead of a fucking plate carrier. And like, I hate it. I do despise the militarization of police. If it was up to me, they'd wear like jackets and ties and a funny hat and, you know, have one of those like, you know, pistols with a lanyard on it. But no, instead we have fucking Call of Duty cops. But that guy looked chill. I'd be more than happy to do it.
He just laughed at him like multiple times.
Yeah, like he gave 0 fucks at all. The fact that he was a senator. But what a great, like, if you were a police, like if you're a police kind of administrator, you'd be looking at that video going, well, that is fantastic, because our cops just were not flapped at all by the fact that this guy was a senator. He just did his exact job without, you know, fear or favor. Look, good on that cop. Friend of the show. Get him on here.
So I
we'll
think
drive
someone...
Chatfield.
So someone comment, I can't remember how it came up, but they were just saying how legalized, like what's the point of legalized cannabis at this? Did you even say that? But it is effectively legal. If anyone
basically, but this is my problem with it.
$20.
I have had a lot of personal experience with this, just from, like, you know, ex-girlfriends mostly. The current regime for what is effectively legalized marijuana in Australia is an absolute unmitigated disaster. And if you think the social and psychological consequences of the NDIS and, you know, gaslighting 25% of the population into thinking they're disabled have been bad, you know, the looming consequences for a generation of predominantly young women who have gone from smoking the daily cone of bushweed in their teens to not being able to cope with life in their 20s and having access to ultra high potency cannabis designed to palliate cancer patients, right? This stuff that they are putting on the street so that you can buy, you could ring dispensed or alternately, if you could ring them right now, and you could speak to a nurse and say you have anxiety, or say you have fucking back pain, or fucking, I don't know, brain scrambles or something. Yeah. And within a week, for 300 odd bucks, you will have a canister of 31% THC leaf, like in your mailbox, right? 31%. I mean, I looked at some studies recently that showed, like, the average THC percentage of seized marijuana in the first 20 years of the 21st century in Australia was between 15 and 16%. Like, it was minuscule. Like, it's not much. That's what most people were smoking, you know. And now, I mean, we're talking double, right? The psychological impacts, the social impacts, like, this stuff is highly habit forming. Look, I'm sure there is nothing wrong with smoking the occasional joint and enjoying yourself, but this is not what this stuff is designed for, right? This is like the equivalent of saying to someone who just goes out every other weekend and takes a pinger, hey, have you thought about just doing like 10 strips of blotter acid instead? Like it's basically the same logic. And I've seen it. I've seen it up close and personal. The impacts it's had on people's lives, and I just think it's got to end. Legalize the shit out of it. Let people grow it in their backyards. Like the agricultural sector should be able to grow the stuff, grow hydro, whatever. But that's not what this stuff is. And none of it's coming from Australia, which is I think the most worrying thing. I mean, I've had a lot of production.
There are. I know there are a lot of farms in Queensland.
Yeah, but look closely at the labels, right? Australia is producing a great deal of weed, but it's having its THC extracted. It's going into the gummies. It's going into the oil products, and this stuff that they're selling. When you look at the packaging, you realize it's from California, it's from Colorado, it's from the United States. The brand names, you can track them online. You can look up the brand names of the stuff they're actually selling here. They aren't domestic strains, right? Sure, you get the gummies or whatever, like it's probably extracted from locally produced cannabis. But by and large, and the stuff the customers want, the extremely high potency, high THC sativa in particular, which I think is the worst one. It's coming from overseas. So let people grow it. That's fine. But God, there comes a point when if it's going to be this prolific, you have to regulate the THC content, And I think this should just be across the board for all recreational drugs, right? Just regulate it. Just say, yeah, fine, do whatever, but we're just going to make sure it's not going to fucking kill you immediately. Like, might kill you later, but I just find that stuff so frustrating that because in the rush to, medicalize and credentialize something like cannabis, we have just inadvertently ended up with a worse scenario than we had before when people just used to have to buy it from some guy with dreadlocks who lived in Nimbin,
Or grew it at home.
Or grew it at home. Yeah, like I mean, back in the day, like they used to have that thing in the ACT. You used to be able to grow 4 plants to the ACT.
That's a thing.
No, I think they got rid of that. I think they got rid of the 4 plants in the ACT. Yeah. I think they maybe did. I remember, or was it South Australia? It was somewhere I had to get rid of them because they had bikies flooding in. And you get like a dozen guys in a house, and then suddenly you've got 50 plants. So.
I think, our local, more jobs for immigrants.
Exactly.
Got 50 new guys and 100 cannabis plants.
Yeah. Ironbark Alpha says you should be able to sue your local drug dealer for unconscious. I think he means unconscionable conduct, but yeah, you should be able to. I mean, that'd be the ideal way to do it. Just have a regulator who says, I saw something incredible once. I was lucky enough to be in Lisbon in 2018, which was right before, because they had like a fully legalized drug regime over there. So the Portuguese government just went, fuck it, you can do whatever you want. And we saw at a nightclub one night, police were like pulling guys out of the nightclub and lining them up on a wall and searching them. And we were like, fuck, what's going on there? I thought drugs were legal here. And they were selling fake drugs. And so under Portuguese law, it was actually a crime. It was not a crime to be found in possession of drugs. But if you had possessed a fake drug, it was like evidentiary of you dealing. And so they'd arrest you. So if you just had a little bit of drugs on you, they wouldn't do anything. But if you had a bag of catnip that you were passing off as weed, you could actually be convicted for it. I thought that's a really good system.
True. That's what we need police for.
Arresting people for dishonesty.
Arresting people for selling shit drugs.
Yeah. Bully Bullpit says, what about the weed link to schizophrenia? Like, that's really interesting, right? Because I always thought that was horse shit. And I read those studies and I thought it was probably a similar phenomenon to it's like causality thing, like, I mean, if using the methodology of those studies, you could also make the case that nicotine causes schizophrenia because all schizophrenics smoke. it's like a universal thing. The studies are actually fascinating. They found that, you know, tobacco use is actually a good indicator that someone really does have it. But the methodology in those studies was so flawed, you could infer the same thing about nicotine. However, having seen what's happened to people who do large amounts of this stuff that they get from the dispensaries, I've come around to the view that maybe there's something to it, like at least some kind of propensity for short-term psychosis. Or maybe I'm just really hard to live with. Like,
no, I've actually had a friend who spiraled on the legal stuff. It is like genuinely way stronger. It's like fucking powdered crack.
Oh yeah, dude, I've had it once. I smoked it once, and it was one of the reasons I broke up with my last girlfriend, because she was always a massive pothead, and then she got onto that stuff. And then I tried it once because I used to like doing it and then just watching anime all night. And so I did it just like this one time. And it was like a 4-hour long introspective nightmare. It was the worst drug experience of my entire life. I ended up like crawling to the bathroom where I had some Narcan in a drawer. I was like debating whether or not it would fix me. Probably would have sent me to the hospital before it wore off. Anyway, after that, because I didn't mind I didn't do it like not even like every month, but like maybe every like couple of months. I bought like one, I don't know how you even measure weed. I didn't even buy it that much, but I just had like a little tiny bit of it stashed in the house. And she thought it was funny to swap it for her shit. So it was like 3 months later, and I sat down on the couch and I was like, I'm going to binge watch all 3 Neon Genesis Evangelion movies and smoke 1 joint and eat a pack of Tim Tams. And so I smoked this stuff and I won 1 toke, and I was on my ass, and I was so angry at her. Like, that was one of the leading causes of us breaking up. She just thought it was hilarious. She was like, yeah, you can't handle it. I'm like, of course I can't handle it. It's meant for people with like blood cancer who are being eaten from the inside, not for just a guy who wants to watch shows. Like,
it does seem
laughing. Benny's in the chat laughing at this because I think he already knows that story. Fuck you, Ben. It was. Yeah.
Some people seem to really flip out on it, but the problem with the new stuff is it's getting the people who quote unquote can handle it.
Yeah, and so now these people who all live in National Party seats, or lived in them back when the National Party were relevant, they're dictating drug policy to the entire country, and I just think it's going to be an unmitigated disaster, you know. And the ABC actually ran a really good Four Corners piece on it, and they interviewed like a bunch of people who had really bad times on it. Like they interviewed, actually, it was a cop. He was this poor country cop with PTSD, and he was at the end of his tether, and he ordered some of this stuff, and just got one-shotted by it. but
I don't know how you get one shot by weed, but whatever.
Well, high potency weed, I think, yeah.
Maybe we can. I think we've had enough drug chat. I wanted to actually shout out one of our friends across the Dutch. I don't know if anyone saw Whirly taking down NZ Fubar this week.
No, I did. Oh, actually, yeah, I think I did see that.
Seen that then?
Yeah, no, one of you guys shared it. I saw it. I think I saw that today. And at first, I didn't understand what was going on, and then I realized it was actually a New Zealand thing. Have you got it?
I've pieced it together, but
yeah,
the context. I think from what I can tell, he's essentially just like they found like New Zealand's version of Shallow Chow, or some kind of anti-vax cooker. That his daughter's like a stripper or something. So they've just spent.
Oh no!
They've just been like harassing him, and this guy's tried to dox them back.
There's many such cases of that. There's many such cases of that in conservative politics. I don't know what's going on with the dads, but guys, you really got to police that. Ben just said, "Who the fuck is Sneeko?" Yeah, we should do the Sneeko thing. Have you seen this? Drip Havler has been all over it today.
And
justifiably, I mean, Drew didn't get let into the United States because they thought he was going to like do one of those Scientology speed runs through Billie Eilish's house. And now we've got Sneeko, like noted anti-Semite and probable radical Islamist, just hanging out in Australia doing videos from inside like the most heavily monitored ASIO mosques. That's crazy, right?
Yeah, it is. It is wild how like some people didn't Candace Owens get knocked back or like
So recently Candace Owens has been knocked back. Sargon of Akkad got knocked back.
Like how are these guys any like more radical than fucking Sneeko? He's a retard, but
Elijah Schaefer was knocked back for CPAC like 2 or 3 years ago, and he is actually an Australian permanent resident and has not been allowed back in the country, where I think he has a house. Like, and so what Mike Gollum just pointed out, no Kanye West either. We don't get Kanye. Kanye apologized. Kanye put a piece in the newspaper.
He came down from his manic episode.
And all that nitrous he was doing. Like the poor guy, he was doing a lot of nitrous.
But just give it a couple of years. I'm sure he'll be back.
Yeah.
Speaking
I'm not
of
doing
nitrous,
drugs, by the way. It's my nose is blocked. I was at a party the other day, and a bunch of kids were handing around those nasal sprays of ketamine. Have you seen this stuff? But not to get back on drugs, but I find these. If you think the situation with medicinal cannabis is weird, they're now just prescribing people ketamine nasal sprays. You can just get them for depression. Like, so you can't get a pack of cigarettes for under $75 in this country, but your doctor will prescribe you ketamine in a nasal spray that you can just do when you're sad.
Well, I think I posted with the Melbourne fire bombings. I'm pretty sure like weed is probably the least criminally controlled drug that you can get on the market.
Oh yeah. Well,
yeah, ketamine might be. Yes, soon enough, cocaine will be the most government approved.
You know what? It's arguably the most harmless drug. I mean, don't let me get on my high horse, but when was the last time you read a news story which said like man on cocaine does X? Like that's like that. Cocaine users aren't even committing crimes in this country. Like
adding Anthony Catalano, but that might be a bit niche. That might be above the pay grade.
Was it? I thought he was meth. I thought that was a meth one, wasn't it? Meth is definitely the worst one for crime. Like meth is the gold standard for committing
crime. The crime juice.
It's just crime juice. Like you can just be a completely like you could do it. We could just give you meth and you'd go firebomb a tobacconist.
I can show the what they found of this New Zealand Fubar's daughter.
Throw it up on the screen, yeah. It'll pop up on mine in a second. Yeah.
Yeah. So am I able to put it on stage, or is it only you?
No, I have to do the stage. Yeah. But if you press play now, it'll play.
Trigger warning. Trigger warning to all.
Oh yeah, trigger warning for. Oh, Nathan Porter would hate this. Orange Pingers is losing his mind right now. And so this is the guy's daughter.
Yeah.
I hope we're doing revenge porn right now.
I'm pretty sure this is a public video. So.
Okay, that's fine. I mean, it's no worse than what you see in the average Sabrina Carpenter film clip.
True.
And now her shirt's just magically gone back on, so it's fine. Yeah. so was this? You just pressed pause, like
I just paused.
So that's right. So that's a doxing. Like that's the kind of stuff I was warning people about at the beginning of the show. Like if you don't go for a consistent campaign of negativity, then that's the kind of stuff you got to drop out at the end. Yeah, Lehrman just said it's 10 p.m. so time for slop of consciousness. Yeah, this is where we just post like grainy videos of New Zealand political figure strippers and talk about drugs. And Bully Bullpit's really excited. Like he's, Zoom says Abby Chatfield would never. She would not. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, we need Moira. The cannons.
Yeah. God, actually, that was last week. I don't think we did because I think that happened.
That was on Saturday.
What an incredible weekend for content on the apps, though. So we had that. That was massive. I mean, just spawned a whole new genre of meme. Like, I bet your fish head wife doesn't have cannons like these. Perfect, 10 out of 10, no notes. And then we had the revelation that Jamiroquai used to date Winona Ryder, but broke up with her because her breasts were too big and she wanted to have sex too often. Did you see that one?
Yeah.
I mean,
it's tough.
Oh, my steak too juicy, my wine too delicious. Like, what the fuck, man? Then we had that guy, the Johnson guy, Brian Johnson, the biohacker, posting the thing about his wife's vaginal microbiome. It was just a weekend of memes. Like, it was an incredible weekend. Yeah, I really enjoyed that. And then on Monday we have to go back to talking about politics. Sucks.
Yeah.
More microbiome memes and have you seen too the Indian scammer now is like the JP Morgan guy is apparently like gone missing or something. He's trying to avoid them or something. I saw that today. And was it you that posted that how much his father looked like Abdul Rizvi?
Yeah, that's right.
That was
creepy.
Like, I mean, that was a very. We might have blown that whole thing wide open. Yeah, that was crazy. Anyway, it's nice when interesting things happen online. Yeah.
It is.
We need it. The world is a dangerous and unpredictable place, and I think everyone just needs a good old fashioned belly laugh sometimes. You know, otherwise you drive yourself crazy thinking about the fate of the country and our Iranian oil and all that. So
and Ash Crowley setting off a Albanian blood feud with him. That was good.
Oh yeah, that was good, man. Don't mess with the Albanians. It's actually a really good rule for life. I think I posted that a girl from any country with an eagle in the flag, right? You just don't go near them. Have you seen the list of countries with eagles? It's like Mexicans, Albanians, Serbians, Egyptians. Like, it's just a list of countries. Egypt has an eagle in the flag as well.
Bullshit.
Mm.
Okay. There you go. That gold shit. Do poles count?
Yep. Oh, yeah. Well, is that an eagle or is that a griffin?
There's not in the flag, but, traditionally, it was the white eagle.
Oh, yeah, true. Hold on. Let's have a look. I asked Grok, hold on, which countries have eagles? Donald Trump should put an eagle in the US flag.
Yeah, I was going to say, how does that?
That's the kind of thing he'd do. Because we also missed, remember last week was also Trump putting his face in the passport, which...
Yeah, I didn't really look at that. It's kind of...
Yeah, I mean, I'm just spending too much time with my dad who reads just too much terrible online content. But I'm starting to get a little bit sick of Donald Trump. I'm starting to worry about the way things are going.
The King's visit was actually pretty good. He did give a pretty good speech.
That was very good. Yeah. So countries with eagles in the flag: Albania, Mexico, Serbia, Moldova, Egypt. Moldova actually has a bull and an eagle. The Moldovan flag is based. It's an eagle with a cross between its beak and a crest with a bull's head on it. Then Egypt's just a plain eagle. The Kazakhstan flag's got an eagle, but quite a nice one. I think Kazakhs are probably fine. I think you can probably date Kazakh women.
Very nice.
Without, yeah, that's right.
Oh wow! Yeah. I never saw the eagle on the Kazakh flag. I thought it was just the sun.
It's a nice eagle though. It's very
beautiful.
Stylistic.
Yeah.
It's actually a really nice flag. Like, that's a top flag. Egypt flag, I could take it or leave it. Moldovan flag, great crest. Serbian flag is spectacular. Like, two-headed eagles always rule. The Mexican flag has just got too much going on, and like, it's an eagle biting a snake, stepping on a cactus. Like, I don't think an eagle would step on a cactus. And the Albanian flag is pretty lazy. Like, yeah.
But you know the imperial eagle, German flag.
Yeah.
That's I'm thinking more, historical. Does that count or?
I guess kind of, yeah. But I mean, for the purposes, like for the hard and fast rule of like women you don't want to mess with, I think my eagle on flag. Bully Bullpit is really agitated about me questioning the eagle on a cactus. Bully Bullpit, tell us the legend of the Mexican eagle on the cactus, please, because I don't want to have to Google it.
Yeah. Don't they? Oh, it's a founding myth. Don't they just like get snakes and pin them on cactuses?
Yeah, that sounds like, or eat them. Yeah, of course we don't know the Aztecs, dude. Like, God, what were you guys learning in Year 8 history? When Ben and I were in Year 8, all we learned was Captain Cook, World War II, Anzacs, Breaker Morant. I think we did Mabo. I think that was like the modern history bit. That was it. We didn't learn about the fucking Aztecs. Like,
Rest is history. Rest is history. Gang, rise up.
Yeah, Ben said Truganini. We did do a bit of Truganini because that was a big deal in Tasmania.
My mate, who's very Aryan, is actually a descendant of Truganini.
Wow, really?
And we've been hassling him to create an Indigenous-owned business for years now.
They're very funny about it down here in Tasmania. In fact, I would almost guarantee you that if you came down here and you said, I'm a direct descendant of Truganini, and you could prove it, you probably wouldn't get let into the Tasmanian Land Council. Like, they are psycho about that shit.
Why is that? What, do they hate her specifically, or?
No, they just hate anyone who's not from the two particular families of Indigenous people down here who run the Land Council. Mate of mine was in grifting, like, well, like grift was like his job, like job network programs. So when you're unemployed and they have like to get your dole, you've got to go in and you've got to like talk to some dude and they send you off to like job placement programs and stuff. And anyway, he was doing that, and like they actually get money from the government for every from every person they send through the program. But the money goes up depending on disadvantage. And he was telling me, like, they would call it double points day. That, like, someone would come in and they'd be like a disabled Aborigine, and they'd be like, "Whoa, this is good. It's like we're gonna get it's a double points day on the tools. We get this guy a job. We're gonna make a bunch of money." So they had a guy come in, and he was like verifiably Aboriginal. Like, he looked Aboriginal. He was from the mainland, and so they tried to get him into all these like job placement programs specifically. Through the Tasmanian Aboriginal Services, and they were like, "Nah, he's not one of us. Can't do it." He was just a regular disabled guy at that point who got no benefit from it, and they were super pissed because you can make a shit ton of money doing
that. No triple points. No triple points. That shit's crazy because what is the Tasmanian Indigenous like? Literally like 3 or 4 couples back in the day that over 200 years just become thousands and thousands of people.
Well, I still think their numbers here, like their official numbers, are actually quite low, and they trace their lineage back to like the late 1800s. But like
Truganini had like 20 children or something. Fucked, like
something like that.
My mate is like 16th, generation. It's like Jesus. if you start doing the the fractals or whatever of that, it's thousands and thousands and thousands of people.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I don't know. I think out of all of them, the Tasmanian Aborigines are probably the ones you got to have the most sympathy for, like literal victims of genocide that the United Nations mentions in the same sentence as Armenians and the Jews. Nah, dude, it was real. It was absolutely real. As a Tasmanian, I've done all the tourist attractions where you see the lines and stuff. Like it happened. I'm calling it. It happened. Ben just said John and I getting separated in religion class for asking about Pope Joan. That's a true story. Ben and I once dominated an entire religion class at St. Virgil's by demanding to know the truth about Pope Joan, the semi-mythological female pope and the brothers wouldn't tell us. So they eventually kicked us out. Yeah. About to say it happened, it was justified. I don't know. I'm mellowing with my old age. I think I'm noticing it more and more.
Less genocide, more Abbey.
Yeah, I'm just not genocide pilled anymore. I used to be so into genocides, and now it's kind of like how when you like I don't really listen to like Linkin Park anymore. You know, I used to be really into like new metal in the 90s. Now I just don't care for it. I feel the same way about genocide now.
When it's come back in vogue so much as well.
I know, yeah. It's like, you know what? But that's just because I'm a contrarian. And once I saw like all these established countries doing modern day genocides, I was like, this sucks. It's not cool anymore.
Yeah, I did it before. It was cool.
Genocide used to be cool and edgy. And now like we've got, at least one, possibly more governments justifying genocides. I'm like, that used to be my thing. Like, so now I just can't get into it. Yeah, we got to find a new crime against humanity that I can get behind. I think last week on the show I was talking about the potential for like some kind of virus to wipe out 30% of the population. Maybe like anthrocide is what I'll get into.
That's not genocide, or
yeah. Matthew Sunday says, John, is there a conservative case for welcome to countries? Hey, that just reminded me, John. I should have front-ended the stream with this, but John Ruddock, the head of the Libertarians in New South Wales, he's actually doing a German speech. He may be doing it now if I can pull it up. Where he's going to actually give the stream a shout out because he's quoting me from the stream last week. Hold on, Lose Council in New South Wales. See if I can live stream it. Maybe on YouTube. Here it is. New South Wales Parliament. He said it was at 10 o'clock.
I probably better duck off.
Yeah, I'll stick around for a little bit. And
I'll probably keep listening, but yeah.
No worries, mate. It's good having you on. Thanks for coming on the show.
No worries. Always happy to bail you out.
Thanks, mate. I was struggling for a second there.
You're all right.
I'm going to put on... Guys, give a big round of applause for Skull, one of our top Gs, one of SOC's strongest soldiers, and sincerely thank him for coming on.
No, I'll be on soon. Thanks, guys.
Can we... Hold on, I'm just going to DM him. I've got... Mark Latham's talking right now, but I'm going to DM John and see if he's already done it. Hold on, where is he? John Ruddock. Have you done it yet? But we might just throw on Mark and see if it I've got it ready to go, so we'll see in a minute. Mark's looking fantastic, actually. Look, I'm just going to throw this on the screen. Hold up. Present or invite. Share screen. Yeah. This screen sharing thing has fully revolutionized us. Like, here we go. I'll leave the volume off for a second until we see who comes on. But yeah, I don't know if you can see that suit. He looks like he's about to walk into a courtroom in Sydney to defend Deutsche Bank, a guy on a cocaine charge circa 1996. In fact, looking at those lapels, I think he might even have worn that suit during the last federal election. Bruce says he watches, but he's not watching right now. This is live. This is literally him in the chamber right now. He did dye his hair. Actually, that's a good idea. Like, we get me, Mark, and Abby Chatfield on the show, and just hair tips, right? I should point out I do not dye my hair. John hasn't responded, which makes me think he might not have done it yet, because he said it was going to be at 10 o'clock. It's 10:14. So they could just be running late. Yeah. So Walmart Gollum says incoming sponsorship from Manscaped. You know, I'm not even joking. I've been seriously thinking for a month now about selling my own line of hair products. Not like a meme and not like as an influencer thing, like actually literally making some and selling them for dudes, because one of the biggest problems with having long hair is all the best shit to make your hair look nice. It smells like a brothel. Like it's for women. Like it just, the smell is disgusting. And I was reading the ingredients and I was reading how this stuff's made. And I was like, shit, this would be really easy to actually just make. And I don't know, just like throw some fucking, I don't know, like I don't wear cologne or anything. Like I don't know what would be a nice man smell. The best for hair is onion. Yeah, like even if it was just like a neutral smell, like it wouldn't smell like anything. It would just do the same thing for your hair without smelling weird. And selling it as just like, in like a gray bottle with hair product on it. It would just be called, like, it would have like the aesthetics of the Soviet Union. It would just be called hair product. And it would just say, make hair good. And that's it. And flog it online for men with long hair. Because it's a kind of a post-COVID thing. Men started growing their hair long after COVID. So Enoch says John McWigan's onion hair tonic. Maybe it's McGowan, maybe it's Maybelline. Yeah, maybe. Yeah. See, you guys, I'm not going to pay any of you for these ideas, but I'm hoovering them all up. Someone just said, what's Latham cooking? I'll turn the volume up so you can hear it.
They've whitewashed this. It sends an appalling ethical standard to the rest of the police force that as a junior officer, just say whatever you like. The police commissioner got away with lying. Why can't they? I would urge LEC to revise the report, to set a high standard for the commission.
He's talking about cops.
The obvious misconduct of someone who's so badly misled time after time about a relationship with the Hopes, where the gym bottles came from, and LEC should be condemned for setting.
Whatever he was talking about sounds interesting. Gin bottles.
The Honourable Greg Donnelly.
Deputy President,
Greg Donnelly's based.
House, a recent most significant decision by the International Olympic Committee regarding a new policy to protect female women's category in sport. It was endorsed on the 26th of March 2026.
So, this guy's in the Labor Party, but he's actually incredibly based on culture wars stuff.
Protection of the female, open brackets, women's close brackets category in Olympic sport, and guiding considerations for international federations and sporting governing bodies. The new policy is 10 pages long, so accordingly, I'll not be able to cover all of its important elements here tonight.
It's hard listening, and he's got 10 pages worth of content about trans people playing sports, so we probably don't want to listen to the whole thing. I'll leave it on. We'll head off at 10:30, and we'll just see if we get lucky and we get John in there. I'm thinking. He said the Germans just started. So if we stick around, we might actually see it. Yeah. Bully Bullpit asks, John, do you think Chris Minns is right wing like New South Wales Socialists claim? I mean, look, he's right wing insofar as he's from Labor right, but I mean, unfortunately, he's walking the line better than most. But I mean, these guys are still captured by the managerial regime, right? I mean, they think it's their get out of jail free card. They think it's their secret to electoral success. So. Yeah, look, he is nominally right wing. He won't do anything dumb, but Greg Donnelly is SDA. Like, I mean, that was the great thing about working in New South Wales Parliament. Like, this was my favourite job that I've ever had. Was I was actually legislative affairs advisor to two leaders of the upper house over the years. First for Mike Gallagher and then Duncan Gay after Mike quit. And like working in that place was just absolutely spectacular. I know most of these guys pretty well. I know Greg. I even knew David Shoebridge when he was up there. I actually got along with David really well. I mean, he's still a schizo, but quite a friendly guy to just deal with. Maureen Faruqi was even pretty fun to deal with up there. You just had to have the right attitude about it and just not be a kind of angry ideologue and fuck with them a little bit. and be honest with them about when you were fucking with them, and you could have a really good time. One of the nicest officers I ever had too. But yeah, Greg was always super based on trans stuff, abortion, euthanasia. One of the last parliaments where someone like him can still survive. What else do I miss in the chat from before? Iron Deficiency Anima is pointing out the incongruity between me saying don't call politicians traitors. 1 hour later, I might invent anthracide. Well, I mean, again, I go to the point that I made before, that it's what you can get away with, right? And you just always got to imagine yourself sitting in the dock, and how ridiculous is the DPP going to look making their case against you? And so, something as kind of comically nonsensical as I'm just going to invent a virus that wipes out 30% of the population. I mean, you can't really take that seriously. But, the point is nowadays they can take calling a politician a traitor seriously. And so you just unfortunately can't do it, even when the things they do are kind of treacherous. Yeah. Guys. Okay, I just got a message from someone who's up there in the house telling me that... Oh, actually, I can message someone else. Hold up. I actually know someone who's in the chamber right now. Check. Sorry, I can't talk and type at the same time. Yeah, I just remembered I'm actually in a group chat with a guy who currently runs the chamber. So, yeah. Needsless, our only YouTube participant, is criticizing my dead air. Dude, come on. It's 10:22 at night. Oh, there he is. John Ruddock is right behind Chris Rath. So if you are going to stay on the stream, I suspect we are going to... Oh, is he going on about One Nation? Hold on. What's Chris Rath saying?
The Bondi massacre was allowed to happen. That gay kids have been hunted down and bashed to near death. That Jewish shops were torched. That professional protesters were given a platform to defend Hamas, the Ayatollah, and October 7.
I think it's Ayatollah. Even I don't get that wrong.
Dismissed as racism, bigotry, and Islamophobia. They're angry that our population grew by 1.5 million over the last 3 years, but we only built 500,000 new homes. They're angry that the elites took the piss out of their beliefs and kept telling them, you can't think that, you can't say that, you can't do that. And they're angry because the price of everything has skyrocketed except their wages, especially groceries, gas, electricity, petrol, and housing.
Chris Rath's appeal to populism.
And finally, they're angry at us because in the 9 months after the last federal election, we didn't know what we stood for, we offered no clear solutions to their problems, and we descended into
Wait for it.
chaos.
He's not going to be based. He's not going to be based.
How does the Federal Liberal Party come back from here? We'll never be able to out One Nation, One Nation. We'll never be able to win by being home brand Hanson or One Nation light. People will just vote for the real thing. That means that while we need to, in the first instance, neutralise...
Why is he litigating this in the chamber?
As Angus Taylor is doing, we then need to bring the national debate back to our issues and our strengths. Fight the next federal election on our terms and on our playing field. And that
who is his audience for this?
We win when we focus on economics. Economics kept John Howard in government for so long. Economics won us 12 years in power in New South Wales as we could finance metros, motorways and infrastructure. And economics won elections for Abbott, Turnbull and Morrison Just
Bully
ask
Ball
Bill
put out a
Shorten, who
wild
lost the
character arc
unlosable
this
election
stream.
when he was
From-
forced to
From
fight
simping
on
for
our
the Kiwi
terms.
stripper to now
Those
demanding more
voters were
twinks.
tempted by One Nation because of economic frustrations rather than cultural frustrations can easily be won back by the Liberal Party. But perhaps the reason we have lost voters on economics is that we failed to differentiate ourselves from Labor on the economy. We too often ventured down the path of a uni party. At the
What the
last
fuck
federal
is he
election, we
talking
promised massive spending and government debt. We opposed personal income tax cuts. We had a plan for government-owned and operated nuclear power plants and a plan for big government regulation on insurance, banking, supermarkets, and gas companies. If all these policies sound
This
like they could have
sucks.
come from Labor, then perhaps that's why people think the uni party exists. We become a uni party with Labor not when we
So what's his
support the free
alternative?
market
Come on,
too
let's hear
much,
it.
but when we don't support the free market enough. So I say death to the uni party.
Everyone
Let's be
do a
liberals, true
masters in the
liberals.
chat. I
Because
think
as
Marky is
pollster
actually
Tony
watching
Barry
right now.
recently asked, if the Liberal Party is now against free markets and smaller government, then why would anyone vote Liberal?
Jordan, the reason
Of
we are
course,
streaming this,
some in the
I'm-
coalition disagree with me. They argue that we
The re-
need to change.
the
because
reason we're
free
streaming
markets
this is
are
that
no
John
longer
Ruddock's about to do a
fashionable or in
speech where
vogue.
he's going to name check
But we
the
should
stream.
not be pushed around by the latest trend or fad or novelty of the day. We are not weather vanes. The problem on the right side of politics is not free markets or classical liberalism. The problem is weakness.
I
Our
think it
current
is
set of
classical
economic
liberalism,
challenges are
dude. I
not
think
dissimilar to
classical
the
liberalism might be
1970s.
the problem.
Or if the 1970s gave us stagflation, an oil crisis, high interest rates, and low productivity, then the 1980s gave us the solution. Margaret Thatcher, Ronald Reagan, and free market reforms. But that only happened because we shunned weakness, because we shunned the fashionable Keynesian economics of the 1970s.
Very good. This is the best of German.
Oh, here we go. Here we go. We're in.
Yeah,
We're in.
but
About
John-
to get better. About to get better.
The Honourable John Ruddock.
Madam Acting President, I want to discuss Welcome to Country ceremonies. In 1973, the Australian Union of Students organised the Aquarius Festival in Nimbin, northern New South Wales. It was marketed as a 10-day
This is gonna be good.
countercultural arts, music and lifestyle festival. It was Australia's Woodstock. It made Nimbin Nimbin. But an Aboriginal activist, Gary Foley, said the festival needed permission from traditional owners to proceed. The hippie, pot-smoking Pinko College kids replied, "Of course, Mr. Foley, why didn't we think of that?" The tricky bit was how to perform a ceremony that no one had previously performed. A makeshift event unfolded, but it didn't catch on. But fast forward to 1976 and the Perth International Arts Festival. Pacific Islander performers insisted they couldn't perform without permission of local Indigenous elders. What a conundrum. There was no such
Didn't
thing
one
as
of
a
you put
tribal
all this on
breeding
an
ceremony among
infographic
Aboriginal
recently?
people. So event organisers hastily lined up Ernie Dingo and Richard Wiley to perform a welcome ceremony. Ernie Dingo said it was the beginning of a beautiful new tradition. By the 1980s, the term welcome to country was coined by Rhoda Roberts AO. It then began slowly creeping into our culture until somehow it has become ubiquitous. Madam President, we have hundreds of explorer journals from colonial Australia. I've read many of them. Many are packed with fascinating and positive interactions with Aboriginal people. Absolutely zero mention of anything resembling a welcome to country. Watkin Tench was a naval officer aboard the First Fleet. Tench and Governor Phillip became especially close friends with Bennelong. Tench recounts when Bennelong was asked about a scar on his body. This is Watkin Tench's own words. Bennelong laughed and explained it was received in carrying off a lady of another tribe by force. Bennelong said, "I was dragging her away. She cried aloud and stuck her teeth into me. I knocked her down and beat her till she was insensible and covered
This
with
is
blood."
wild.
Bennelong recounted his battles with the Camaragal tribe in the most violent rage, and he never failed to beg the governor to accompany him with soldiers to exterminate the Camaragal people. So as soon as Bennelong could speak English, the very first thing he wanted his new mates to do is grab their guns and soldiers, go to the North Shore and wipe out the Camaragal people. William Buckley was an escaped convict who lived with the tribe for 3 decades in the Geelong area and later wrote a gripping account. Buckley had many good times with his tribe, but there were very bad times. Buckley describes 14 occasions of gruesome tribal violence. Here's one. A fight now commenced. Spears and boomerangs flew in all directions. The
We're gonna
sight
get
was
Mungo
horrible.
Manic
Men
on
and
this.
women were fighting furiously, covered with blood. It lasted without intermission for 2 hours. The enemy tribe then retreated. Ours followed them. And laying in ambush, our tribe killed 3 on the spot and wounded several others. The bodies of the dead they mutilated in a shocking manner. All pre-agricultural societies from Europe to Australia generally had similarly short, nasty and brutish lives. This is how the English people lived before the Romans turned up. Now, let's boil down the welcome to country. Unless you are an Aboriginal, you are merely visiting Australia. You need to be welcome to it because it is not really your country. I reject that absolutely. It is an insult to millions of Australians, but can it get any more insulting than to recite a ritual claiming 97% of Australians are invaders and then imposing it on Anzac Day services? Perhaps it makes sense when visiting Aboriginal homelands or when you attend an explicitly Aboriginal event, but the only reason to force these ceremonies so incessantly on us at all times is to make a political point. And it's not simply a benign and friendly gesture of goodwill, it has become a statement of racial hierarchy in this country. This insult is compounded on Anzac Day. There is a case to be made that the independent Australian identity was forged on the 25th of April 1915. For people who are invested in the history, traditions and stories of this country, that date truly matters and it represents the emergence of an Australian national identity. It's hard to imagine a worse time to impose a racial hierarchy ceremony that implies most of our diggers were actually second-class citizens. It is Libertarian Party policy that the government should not conduct welcome to country rituals, but private organisations are free to do what they like. So I am pleased to hear there will be a review by the RSL and I encourage members to speak up now. A former well-known personality in this place, the legendary John McGowan, recently said on his Stream of Consciousness podcast that he opposed welcome to country at Anzac Day, but he did add, if I was there, I personally wouldn't have booed because I am pathologically polite. Mr McGowan speaks for most Australians. Recent polling from the Institute of Public Affairs says 60% agree welcome to country ceremonies have become divisive. 12% disagree. I'm with Marcia Langton, who said, vote no on The Voice and you won't get another welcome to country. We did vote no. It wasn't close. Let's end the welcome to country con.
Scott Barrett.
There you go. Stream of consciousness making huge waves in the New South Wales Parliament.
Today, the 5th of May, of course.
And on that note, sock puppets and sociopaths, I'm off to bed. It's been a fun stream. Thank you all for tuning in. I'm glad everyone jumped back in the chat for that at the end. It is a sock ultimate victory. We are making huge inroads in our project for Hyper Australia. First, the Legislative Council chamber. Next, Abby Chatfield will be live on the show sharing hair care tips and lamenting her failure to get a job on Kiss FM. Good night, gentlemen, and sweet dreams, and stay conscious. It's been fun. Talk soon.